Don't underestimate the Trump administration on the issue of the Strait of Hormuz. This is Steve Gibson reporting, author of the best-selling novel Logics Dictate. Please remember to subscribe, follow, and like this broadcast so it can continue. I also want to give a shout out to Tiger Logic. When you see all of these amazing graphics and displays, it's because of them. Now, let's get back to not underestimating President Trump and the Trump administration when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. I am reporting today on March 16th. This podcast may post a little bit later, but if events transpire where what I'm predicting is going to happen actually happens, understand that this is coming out on March 16th. For those of you that aren't following the news, the Iran conflict is now centered on the blockage of shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, a body of water between Iran and other Gulf countries. And about 20% of the world's oil passes through that strait, as well as other products such as fertilizer. Right now, that traffic is somewhat stopped because of the conflict. Now, remember what happened by way of example in Venezuela. Without any loss of life, the Trump administration was able to swoop in to Venezuela, take its leader on criminal charges, extract that leader, and bring it to New York to face prosecution. Since that time, have we had boots on the ground in Venezuela? No. Have we had a loss of life in Venezuela? No. Have we had political prisoners released? Have we had millions of gallons of oil, barrels for that matter, of oil flow for the benefit of Venezuelans and for the benefit of the world, particularly in the United States, of that oil coming out of that country? This was a magnificent tactical and strategic development administered by the Trump administration. No one should underestimate that took planning, skill, courage, and decisional bravery to execute. We are now seeing, because of that situation in Venezuela, the abhorrent regime in Cuba facing its own demise, with predictions that Cuba may become effectively a free country within the foreseeable horizon after decades of despotic regime rule. All because of the strategic plays on the part of the United States. Now, some of you may say, why is this America first? Well, it's America first because America in today's world is not an island. We share commerce with the rest of the world. We share oil pricing with the rest of the world. We cannot live America first and not execute strategic plays against despots and tyrants in other countries, if in fact it is going to be in the United States' best interest to do so, and we could do so without a tremendous loss of life on the part of American military combatants. There have been limited losses in the Iran conflict. Those are obviously highly unfortunate. But going to battle does have its costs. And some have said, well, Trump never signed up, and those espousing policies advancing conflict never signed up to go to war. Well, that is not the determinant of good policy. If drafted, I would go. If drafted, others that espouse this policy would clearly go. My being in the military today does not define whether it is or is not a good policy. Now let's go back to the Strait of Hormuz. There should be no question that the Trump administration is planning mightily to deal with the bottleneck that currently exists. There is an island that supports apparently 90% of the refining industry of Iran, the Kargil Island. We basically took out all military capability and support defensively with respect to that island that Iran was maintaining. It is now highly likely, in my estimation, that we are going to be able to have limited boots on the ground in that island and put a stranglehold on Iran's ability to export oil for its own benefit. And in fact, it would seem to me that the Trump administration has a plan to take that oil as recompense for all of the damage and all of the trauma that Iran has cost America through the years, and basically use that as leverage to bring Iran to its knees even further. Is that legitimate? Is it an appropriate tactic to take Iranian oil away from them as recompense? I would say absolutely. There should be no question that if that brings about global peace by basically neutralizing Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran, bringing effectively peace to the Middle East, bringing about no more trauma in the Western Hemisphere, these are tremendous advantages to not only the United States, but the world. It would also devastate Russia's ability to continue to fund and prosecute its war. It would also mitigate Chinese adventurism as well by not having Iran support China economically and at some level militarily. So, what are we going to do? Well, I'm not in the administration, and I don't know with definitive certainty as to what the administration is going to do, but I would not underestimate them, and I would suspect that they are going to put our own stranglehold on Iranian oil and also continue to attack the Iranian side of the strait to further minimize Iranian adventurism in terms of laying mines or having speedboats come through that threaten shipping through that lane. Now, what is the other thing that the Trump administration is doing appropriately? Well, they're inviting other countries that are adversely affected by the Iranian threats to the Strait of Hormuz to say, listen, folks, you need to come and you need to support the effort that is to your own advantage. The United States is a net exporter of energy, is a net exporter of oil and gas. It is less dependent today on oil coming from the Strait of Hormuz than countries in Asia, such as Japan, South Korea, and China. It's less dependent on fossil fuels by comparison with Europe. Now, all of these countries should be incentivized to assist the United States in at least opening up the Strait of Hormuz. And if in fact they don't, if our NATO allies that are dependent upon this energy do in fact not come to join, not aid, but to join the United States in opening up the strait, then shame on them. And the President Trump is absolutely within his rights to say, if you don't join us in this endeavor at this time, well, then you should think again about whether or not we are going to come to your aid, particularly since we have basically helped you out, provided you with a security blanket for 70 years. And this is the thanks that we get. No matter what you say about whether or not we should have taken out the despotic, theocratic regime in Iran, at a minimum, you should recognize that they fomented terrorism. They said to America, they said to Israel, and they are not a regime that should be respected at all. So, folks, again, I ask you to subscribe, follow, hit a like, support the endeavor of this reporting if in fact you agree with what I'm saying. And even if you don't agree, at least we're going to continue the conversation. Thank you so much.